The dawn on Thalassos 3 never broke with color. It seeped in, as though light itself was reluctant to cross so many leagues of burned amber sand. Zephyr liked that hushed lighting. It meant that, for a precious hour, the dunes stopped pretending to be an ocean and lay still, ridgelines polished smooth by the night winds. Perfect conditions for a postal runner with a sail too big for reason. She unpacked the collapsible mast, locked the carbon bone boom, and snapped the jade green sail into place. Then she slotted her first cargo cylinder frosted polyglass, faintly humming with blue symbols, into the sidewell of her sandboard. Hologram letters. Some were invoices scrawled by mining foremen, some birthday wishes recorded by faraway children, some I miss you monologues whispered by soldiers stationed on colder moons. Every message was light captured in crystal, waiting for a second of projection to bloom like a memory. Zephyr had never seen an ocean, but she had seen wind. When the eastern airstream flexed, she pivoted the board, tilted the sail, and let the rising gust yank her forward. The dune crest fell away beneath her, and sunlight scattered from the sailcloth. She skimmed down the slope, trailing a ribbon of gold dust, heart drumming with that peculiar mix of vigilance and reverence each run demanded. Today, her route hooked south, toward the research domes at Station Miragen. One parcel, a cobalt cylinder, glowed with a private cipher. Dr. Kalen Meriges Rune, lead spectrocartographer, Oasis Division. She had heard the name exactly twice from other runners who thought scientists were as odd as sorcerers. Eels listens to sand like it's an oracle, they said. Chases water that isn't there. Zephyr shrugged such rumors away. On Thalassos III, the impossible was just something that hadn't yet found the right witness. Wind carried her 30 kilometers before mid-morning. She dodged slip-funnel ravines, skirted the ruins of an ancient evaporator, and stopped only once to realign her compass with a constellation of drilling towers on the horizon. The day's heat pressed closer. By noon, she could taste copper in every exhale. She drank 2 mouthfuls from her canteen, spat one onto a rag to wipe her eyes, and kept racing south, board hissing, sails snapping. At 1317 local, Station Miragen rose out of a shimmer, 7 geodesic domes strung together on a shelf of pumice. Solar veins ringed the complex like translucent petals. Zephyr reefed her sail, stabbed her board into an anchor slot, and hopped onto the metal gangway, boots crunching with grit. The station's airlock opened at first ping. Inside, cooled air kissed her cheek. She unclipped her hood and goggles. Strands of sun-bleached hair stuck to her forehead. Waiting just past the seal, half illuminated by the cyan glow of monitors, was Dr. Rune. She knew him from a distance, tall, spare frame, desert tan skin darker than hers, eyes the same bleached amber as the dunes outside. He wore field khakis, their pockets heavy with sensor probes, but he carried himself like a man who'd lived most of his life in libraries. The combination intrigued her at once. Postal runner Zifravel, she introduced, tapping her wrist pad to project her manifest. Holmes priority cylinder, direct from the Athens orbital relay. Sign here, please. He accepted a stylus, but rather than sign immediately, he asked, "How long have you been traveling today?" 6 hours, give or take, she said. Rest first. Orders were one thing, kindness was different. She blinked at him, surprised. He noticed her hesitation, smiled, and pressed his thumbprint on the manifest. "I've cracked open a reservoir, ion filtered, 30 degrees. Nothing tastes like it." It was far from the first kindness Zephyr had known, but she felt it like a cool stone slipped into her palm. She followed him down a corridor toward the canteen, every step reminding her that she probably smelled like sailcloth and canned sweat. "I hope the journey stays kind on your return," he said as she gulped from a carafe. "There are dust squalls brewing east." "Storms and I are old acquaintances," Zephyr replied, wiping her mouth. "What about you? Got dome anchors double-checked?" "Anchors are fine." He paused. It's the mirage oases that worry me, Zephyr chuckled. Mirages are illusions, Doctor. They can't bury a station. That depends, he said, smile flickering, on how you define illusion. Later, before she sailed away, he walked her back to the gangway. The scientist squinted at her board, fascinated by the sand-caked bearings. You ride the wind the way some play instruments, he observed. Nothing elegant about it, she replied. Push, pull, pray, adapt. That's exactly elegance. He hesitated, then added, soft enough for Dunes not to overhear, would you consider returning in 2 weeks? I'll have outbound messages, and I could use a test pair of eyes. On mirages, she teased. On possibilities, he corrected. She weighed the offer, nudging a boot against the board's edge. Professional schedules seldom accommodated whims, but something about the way he said possibilities unsettled the careful geometry of her routines. Winds change, routes change. She lifted her chin, nodded once, and let the sail unfurl. The gusts gathered, and Zifravel skimmed north. Aware, the scientist watched until 2 ridgelines swallowed her from view. 2 weeks arrived like a promise kept by no one in particular. Zephyra planned the southward leg at dawn again, monitoring barometric surges that hinted at trouble later. The sky was raw bronze when she spotted Station Miragen. She anchored and entered to find Dr. Rune in the central dome, hunched over a hololite table strewn with flux charts. He greeted her with warmth that felt neither forced nor distracted, rare from researchers who lived inside their data. They exchanged cylinders and signatures. Then he handed her a slim canister of tea leaves roasted in the station's botanical unit. For your headaches, he said. She hadn't mentioned headaches. Yet, every mid-afternoon on run days, she fought a dull pain behind her eyes. She decided not to ask how he guessed. Some hearts, she suspected, were tuned to frequencies subtler than spoken details. Over lunch, he projected spectral surveys above the table, waves of color cascading over topographic grids. This is a phantom aquifer I tracked last week, he said. Appeared at 1409, latitude -23, longitude 81, vanished by 1416. Sensors glitch? She countered. Not this cleanly, and not in harmony with my biometric readings. He slid new data forward. See? My heart rate spiked 8 seconds before manifestation. Blood oxygen, temperature they shifted to. She caught the implication. You're saying the oasis comes when your body changes? That's my suspicion. Some quantum entanglement between observer and phenomena, but it's not enough. I think 2 synchronized observers could stabilize it. And you're recruiting me? He held her gaze, earnest. You traverse the open dunes more than anyone. You understand heat haze. If the oasis responds to emotional or physiological resonance, 2 distinct heartbeats might coax it into longer coherence. Zephyra folded her arms. She was a courier, not a research partner, and yet, part of her had always looked at horizons, wondering what hid just beyond freckled light. If I help, she said, it's trial basis. I still have delivery quotas. He nodded. Tomorrow, Dawn, less solar interference. They met outside the station before sunrise, each carrying packs of sensors. Zephyra had stowed her board and sail on an autonomous crawler. Today she would walk, he said, to minimize mechanical disruption. The dune sea ahead seemed fatherless and motherless, every curve sharpened by night winds. They trekked side by side, footfalls whispering. Minutes stretched, their breaths condensed in chilly pre-dawn air. Dr. Rune broke the hush. How did you become a postal runner? Family trade, she replied. My mother thought deserts could teach patience. Turns out they teach persistence instead. She glanced at him. And you? Why chase water that hides? I was born on a water world, he said wistfully. I grew up hearing waves all night. Then one day a cyclone swallowed our settlement. We evacuated. I was 6. All I remember is white noise and my mother singing to distract me. She said water could heal and harm. I've spent years asking why it chooses. Zephyr considered that. Maybe it doesn't choose. Maybe it reflects what we need. He slowed. That's closer to my hypothesis than you think. They reached a plateau of pale gypsum. Dr. Roon planted tripods and calibrated lenses. He pulled a wearable halo of sensors and fitted one gently over Zephra's temples. Her pulse echoed in her ears. He wore a matching ring around his chest. Now what? She asked. We wait, he murmured, closing his eyes. Zephyr tried to emulate his stillness, but she was built of motion. Lingering meant feeling every itch of stray sand, every memory she'd ridden away from. She watched him instead. The calm slope of his shoulders, the way sunrise painted copper across his jaw. The desert began to glow. Then, at some impossible moment, the horizon developed a second line, a wavering teal strip, as though a painter had changed their mind. Zephyr blinked. There it remained, a belt of liquid turquoise, rippling gently where no wind blew. She inhaled sharply. The sensor halo tightened, registering. Dr. Roon opened his eyes. She saw tears collect instantly. Do you see it? He whispered. Yes. Walk with me. They stepped forward. The mirage, no, the oasis felt near and far at once, shifting with their perspective but not fading. Palm fronds crystallized in the shimmer, casting dappled shadows. A scent rose, reminiscent of rain on stone. Zephra's heart battered her ribs. The water looked waist-deep, diamond clear. She imagined dropping to her knees, drinking with palms cupped. She had never felt thirst like she did standing before that vision. They halted at the lip where sand met reflection. Dr. Roon knelt, hand outstretched. His fingertips touched nothing. Instead of disappointment, wonder expanded in his eyes. Not physical yet, he murmured, but more than illusion. Phase-shifted reality, needing resonance energy to transition. Zephyr noticed their wrist sensors blinking fast. And that energy is heart. He glanced at her, sudden vulnerability bare on his face, specifically, hearts congruent. The tapestry of her life rarely made room for romance. Runners loved in bursts, stolen campfire nights, quick entanglements at way stations. Yet in that shimmer, under that hush, she knew he asked something bigger than proximity. He sought a scent to tether his heartbeat to hers, to test whether yearning itself could summon water. Zephyr took his hand, skin warm, pulse rapid. The oasis brightened, green deepening. A palm trunk resolved to bark so detailed she spotted notches where dates might grow. A wind she had not felt moments ago ruffled her hair, smelling of salt and distant storms. She gasped, then laughed in astonished relief. It's real. Partially, he breathed. Hold on. He closed his eyes, focusing. She followed suit. In darkness behind her lids, she sensed currents of memory. The hush of dawn sails, the first time she glided down a dune, the weightless moment before board met sand. Then she felt something new, the very first note of belonging, anchored in his steady hand around hers. A splash sounded. They jerked eyes open. Water lapped at their boots, cool, silvery. Zephyr knelt, scooped a fistful, and drank. No taste had ever been sweeter, because none had required such shared belief. The oasis expanded outward, a pond now spanning 20 meters. Fish flickered within. Zephyr laughed again, but the laugh died when her wristcom chirped. Storm alert, severity 9. She glanced west. A titanic wall of ochre dust erased half the sky. Storm front, she shouted. Dr. Roon pivoted, instruments still littered gypsum behind them. We need data logs, but the oasis, it was already flickering, torn by cross-pressure. Zephyr clenched his hand. You'll lose it again. I won't let you lose yourself. She yanked him toward the crawlers. Half running, half dragging, they reached the rig as the first pulse of wind struck, flattening sensors, scattering recon prisms. Sand clawed at their faces. Zephyr tripped. Roon pulled her up. They dove beneath the crawler's belly, shielded by armored paneling. Thunderless roar engulfed them. She pressed her forehead to his shoulder, vision full of swirling grit. 10 minutes lasted an hour. Eventually, the gale slacked to ugly gusts, then to ragged sighs. Silence settled like ash. They crawled out. Everything beyond 3 meters blurred under dust veils. Zephyra raised goggles, rubbed them clear. The oasis was gone, leaving only scorched gypsum. Tripods lay twisted, data cores may be salvageable. Rune sank to his knees, head bowed. She felt the loss sharp, biting, but she also felt the hinge of a decision. She knelt, cupped his face, brushed grit off his cheeks. It came because you believed, she said, because we did. That means it can come again. He searched her eyes, slow hope dawning. With you? With us, she confirmed. 2 weeks. I deliver, I return, we call it, and next time we anchor more than instruments. He managed a small, cracked smile. We anchor ourselves. Their pact rewrote her schedules. Zephyra plotted runs to finish early, trained lungs at dawn to sync breathing cadence with his. She built duplicate sensor halos sized for both of them, reinforced with braided alloy so storm shears couldn't rip them. She also began recording voice letters, something she'd never done, sent to Rune by runner colleagues, containing little jokes about sun hallows and desert recipes. He reciprocated, hologram capsules mapping constellations he'd named after shipping lanes she rode. Nightly, she replayed miniature stars hovering over her bunk. Once, he ended a message with a phrase in an old Terran Sea dialect. She searched archives until she found its translation: the tide follows the moon. Weeks blurred, the desert changed, but not their intent. On the third expedition, dawn glimmered milky under clouds, and they set sensors faster than before. They clasped hands, eyes closed, breaths synchronized. The oasis arrived like a sigh, gentle, certain. Waves lapped ankles, palm trees rustled without wind. Rune guided her deeper. The water resisted less than air. Soon they waded knee deep. Their monitors beeped. Matter threshold exceeded, stable. Zephyr laughed, splashing him. He splashed back, eyes bright. Then seriousness curled through him. He reached into the pond, retrieved a wet stone shaped like a teardrop, and placed it in her palm. For patience and persistence, he said. For every letter you carried across emptiness so someone somewhere could feel seen. For carrying me, too. Her throat thickened. She closed fingers around stone. Then take this. She unclipped her runner's compass, beaten by years of sun, and pressed it to his chest. You won't get lost anymore. You can always find me. Sensors chimed at maximum coherence. The oasis expanded to horizon, merging mirage with geography, an inland sea hatching amid dunes. Sunlight scattered turquoise against dune walls. Wet wind rose, swirling. They stood waist deep now, but kept hands linked. Do you realize, Rune whispered, awe tugging mouth corners upward, that we just rewrote planetary hydrodynamics with a feeling? Zephyra shook her head, wonderstruck. Feels more like the planet rewrote me. They leaned forward, kissed amid the hush of forming surf. Water tasted of minerals, heartbeats, and possibility. When they parted, their sensors still pulsed, but neither looked at the numbers. Proof was everywhere, droplets on lashes, circles rippling outward. Above them, storm clouds massed again, but softer, dark petals against brightening skies. Zephyra sensed the desert watching, curious, unthreatening for once, like a tutor, satisfied a lesson had been learned. She turned to Rune. Time to chart edges of this sea? Soon, he said. First, one more test. He lifted her hand to his chest, heartbeat thudding. If proximity summons water, what summons home? She rested her free hand over his. Whatever else happens, sail and shore learn each other's names. She smiled. And nobody outruns the post. I'll still deliver, but maybe now I'm delivering us. Rune nodded, water-flecked hair clinging to his brow. Then let's map routes together. They walked, still half wading, toward high ground where drones would anchor buoys. Zephyra glanced behind. The sea shimmered, azure and defiant, daring storms to erase it. She understood the dare. Existence contingent on hearts was not a weakness, it was a covenant. She squeezed Rune's fingers, horizons curved widely around them. But for the first time in her miles of sand and sail, she felt the map folding inward, making room for a singular destination that moved as they moved. Somewhere, letters were waiting, winds were turning, and new mirages brimmed with truth. Yet no matter how far routes scattered tomorrow, she knew the way back. All she had to do was listen to the hush between their heartbeats until water answered, appearing only when their hearts neared, and staying now, because they had chosen to stay for it too.